Well, hello everybody. For those people looking for some reading ideas, I'm going to do a little bit of a book review today. 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Okay, so it's quite a thick book, 400 and something pages. So it took a bit to read. I was looking forward to reading it because I've read, Machiavelli's The Prince and Sun Tzu's Art of War and books like that, and found them absolutely fabulous. This is a very good book. There's a however, isn't there? It is a very good book, but I find books kind of written in this style a bit, quite frustrating. I'll say why. So it's absolutely fabulously designed. If you're looking at how kind of modern books are, gold, red, blue, power, 48 laws of power, wow! Take over the world, yes. It's crush your enemies and all that. It's very good read. So I'll say how it's constructed. He talks about 48 laws, and they're listed individually. Law 1, never outshine the master. Law 2, never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies. Law 3, conceal your intentions. Conceal your intentions. Law 3. And it goes on like that, all 48 laws. Basically, how it's constructed is the law is listed. He's a very good writer. The law is listed. Then he will give historical examples of what he says is when the law is used correctly. Somebody's successfully using the law. He might, there might be, a few of those, and some of the, and he will give examples of when the law is transgressed, and so it's all the way through is historical examples, which is very good. Reading the history is great, and in the margins there are other examples of the law being used, or an ancient fable that matches or comes close to the law and things like that. So it's very well constructed. You get the law, you get an example of when it's been used successfully, you get an example of when it's gone wrong. So it's very worth a read. It says, hang on to it and keep dipping back into it and things like that. So great read. The guy's made a fortune from it, famous, done other books, fabulous. However, or but, or whatever you want to say. So don't ignore all that. It's definitely worth a read. But what I didn't like about it, what I found frustrating, is it's like reading lots of different thoughts come to mind. But it's if someone said, I'm going to write a book on being a liar, as a good liar myself, you kind of think, well, hang on a minute, you're a liar, and you're right. So, he's writing a book on manipulation. He's writing a book on, how to trick people. He uses certain people a lot, such as Talleyrand, who I'd never heard of, who's a minister for Napoleon. Who else does he use a lot? Somebody Wheel or something, the Yellow Kid, who's basically a con artist. He uses, they crop up, I think, more than most people. Mao, the Chinese communist leader, crops up quite a lot as well, particularly more later on. So they crop up quite a bit. Hang on. So basically, he's kind of saying, do whatever you can, be flexible, manipulate. If you think that everyone's nice, you're an idiot. That kind of Machiavelli style. But of course, the biggest manipulation is him getting to buy your book and believing in all these laws. So that's my main critique, is that, again, it's best to measure things in comparison to other things. So if you read quite a lot, and as I do, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, Fooled by Randomness, Anti-Fragile, that to me is far more realistic view of the world. The idea that you can't look back and look at how basically if someone survives and gets through, you can think, well, hang on a second, what did they do? Oh, they were born in the country and had a tough upbringing. All right, well then that means that if you're born in the country and you have a tough upbringing, you're going to become a global leader. So I prefer the thinking of Taleb. The idea that these are fixed laws. I mean, it's contradictory all the way through. So the idea that they're fixed laws is wrong. I found that quite frustrating. So every time I'd read something, he would say it. This is a law and do this. And every time it would just be so jarring, and you'd think, well, hang on a minute, is there an example against it? And particularly when he's using cases to highlight something, it feels far overplayed. So again, he makes a lot of Talleyrand, how he survived this and how he survived that, but he could have easily got the chop by Napoleon, or during all the revolutions. Luck would have played a massive part. Yes, would have been skillful. But the major criticism, as well as them being not exactly fixed laws, is that it's almost... I found it quite jarring when he flipped between... Because he goes on about the court and the life of a courtier, and he would... 1 minute he's saying how to use tactics to work your way up, to smarm, to charm people. And then in the next minute, it's kind of like, this is how you lead. And they're completely different skills. So I found the leadership part extremely weak. Most of it is about being a courtier, working your way up. So you get far more of Talleyrand, who I'd never heard of. Some minister who kind of managed to survive and work his way up and blah, blah, blah. But Talleyrand is no Napoleon. Everybody knows Napoleon. Everybody has a sense of Napoleon, the grandeur, how he moved Europe, how he dominated Europe. If you speak to a Frenchman about Napoleon, oh my God, it's like speaking to people about Churchill in this country. So you don't really get a sense. There's no meat on the bones. If you're talking about the manipulation, like he talks about, Chairman Mao, about the tactics he used and guerrilla and all this to how to win. But there's no mention of there's no mention of the communist ideal behind that all these peasants were signing up to. So there's no mention of that. That the book is about, the tactics and manipulation, but you can't just rely on that. I think that's why the book's more about Talleyrand than it is about Napoleon. To actually control and move an entire country and a body of people and move history, you're talking about a phenomenal skill level, and you're talking about basic human desires. for people to kind of latch onto, and that is not what this book is about. This book is about, you know, manipulation and things like that. So I found that kind of disappointing. That it's like, I wouldn't say it's typical of this modern style of writing, but it's chopped up. It's packaged, it's given a great hook, 48 laws of power, everything's broken down. But it feels overplayed. You know, yeah, that's kind of my feeling of it. You know, all the way through, you're kind of thinking, I just want a bit more than this. But yeah, but it's a fantastic book. Really makes you think. Loads of historical things, and Mr. Robert Greene, the boy's done well. The boy has done well. It's absolutely, it is a fantastic book. Makes you think, but again, that's my kind of take on it. That I think, you know, The Prince by Machiavelli, I think, is going to be around far longer. But that's just my take.